butterflies. We are back again for another amazing interview. And today we have Jodie Solberg. She is a hypnotherapist, and I've had hypnosis in the past, and it actually did work a good bit. So I'm glad to have her on, and we're gonna just share some information on how you may want to incorporate this into your toolkit. So, Jodie, tell the people a little bit more about yourself.
Thanks so much, LaToya. It's so great to be here. Like you said, I'm Jodie Solberg. I'm a certified master hypnotherapist. I've actually been in mental and behavioral health for 25 years and hypnotherapist for 23 of those. And primarily working with people dealing with trauma and anxiety, as well as health conditions. So whether that's acute or chronic pain and health conditions, and have been really focused a lot on women and on children and working with families and helping people to be able to heal from those past traumas and things that we tend to store in our subconscious minds as well as in our bodies. Right? So, when we're talking about how our minds and our bodies are so connected, it's really, really important for me to teach people how their anxieties and fears and stressors and trauma can affect them physically, and then also how those physical health conditions can affect us mentally and emotionally, that it's all truly connected. And so that's a lot of the work I do. I also do HypnoBirthing and prenatal bonding for the expectant mamas. And so that also comes into play when we're talking about pain and how that works in our bodies and in our hormones and in our minds, as well as something called fear, tension, pain syndrome. So I do a lot of that on the preventative and early intervention type of sides to help people with those different, postpartum challenges, like mental health challenges, helping to prevent, as well as helping them to deal with that after the fact too. We have a lot of things that we go through in our lives. And so as women, we're whole people. And we have all the roles, all the things. So I help a lot of people who are trying to juggle all of it. We're trying to deal with taking care of kids, parents, partners, pets, and trying to figure out how to deal with our own health and maybe have a business or a career at the same time. And so that has been my focus for a really long time. And then Psyched Up Success was born basically for my own health and well-being, to be honest. So 2018 going into 2019, I needed to make a shift. I needed to make a big change because of my own chronic pain and health and things that I was dealing with. Plus I was taking care of everybody. So just like my clients, right? I was taking care of everybody and everything else too. And so that was really kind of taking my favorite things, the people that I loved working with that wanted to do that work, and really helping them as whole people, not just focused on one area, but really looking at the big picture. And so it was kind of taking the psychology and putting it in with success in all areas of our life, whatever that looks like for us as individuals, and our relationships, and our businesses, in our health, personally and professionally, because I was actually doing coaching for a really long time alongside the therapy. So, therapist by day and coach by night and on the weekends a lot of the time. And I really loved working with the women in their businesses that I was working with, but they were dealing with all the things that I just talked about. They were dealing with all the things behind closed doors, everything that was going on with their health and with their families and their relationships, and it was affecting them in their businesses. And so I wanted to be able to work with all of us busy professional women trying to do it all and teach them how to take care of themselves first and foremost, so then we can show up as our best as well as we can for everything and everyone else. But if we deplete ourselves and tear ourselves down, then we're not going to be able to take care of anyone, let alone ourselves.
There's nothing left. There's nothing left for anyone else.
Exactly. So that's really been my journey over all of these years of, figuring out how to do that for me too, right? Take care of myself first so I can show up for my clients and everyone else at my best too.
That I mean, it's so many amazing directions you can go with that. That it's like because like I felt all of that. And I mean, basically, yeah, just like you just said, like we as women do it all, whether we sign up for it or not. It's kind of just like it's what
We
we
run
do.
everyone's lives. That's what I always say. I'm like, yeah, I run everybody in my house. It's like we run it all, and we think we have to do it all by ourselves. And
Right.
often we feel selfish if we are not taking care of someone else, if we're taking care of ourselves for a minute. And it's like, why am I not being productive? I'm not doing something for someone else. And so we feel guilt or shame or pressure, expectation, all the shoulds and the have tos in the world on
Oh.
our shoulders. And it really can tear us down, and
Mhm.
it can make a lot of the things that we're dealing with, if we're dealing with health issues, it can exacerbate those symptoms. It can make that worse, stress and anxiety and
Mhm.
all that pressure just takes us down, until we're so depleted that we crash.
Mhm. And so so okay, so it's like so many, like I said, so many different directions I want to go in. But when, what would you say to the woman who's out there who feels like, well, it is expected of me, so I should be able to dot dot dot. And when it comes to look seeking help, coming to someone like you, going to a therapist, and they feel guilty or feel like I don't have time for that because of dot dot dot. What would you say to that woman who needs to put a dot before all that, and like, not, I guess to convince her, but to just speak to that part in her that is keeping her from putting her first?
Yeah, there's typically a lot of inner conflict going on subconsciously, right? There's that part of you who's like, I know I need to take care of this. I know that my body's screaming at me. I know that these things are coming up for me and it needs some attention. But then there's that other part of her that's like, but you can't, because it is expected and there's so much to do. I don't have time to deal with that, or I can't deal with that. And so often, one of the places that I start with that is, in a way, we have to heal that inner conflict and kind of get both sides on board with the
Right.
same objective. And
Have a little
so,
group team meeting.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So hypnotherapy is really amazing for that, because we can calm some of that critical, hypervigilant, all the negative self-talk, like, all of those parts of our minds down, and relax that to where we can come up with a solution how we can do both, and we can do those things in a way that is going to work in our lives, because we go through very similar things. Like I said, as women, we have these universal experiences often, but we do also have very individual lives, and we have very individual needs and things that we're dealing with specifically, and our specific family dynamic and what that looks like, and all the parts and pieces might look a little different. I always think of it as your life is kind of like you want to make it like your favorite song, not your least favorite song, of course. But think of, creating harmony in your life, like creating your favorite song, and think about, whatever kind of music it is, think about all the different parts and players in that band, or that
Right.
orchestra or whatever it is. And think about that everybody might have different instruments, right? Like some people all have, guitars or drums or pianos or cellos or whatever it is, right? Some people might have trombones, right? We all have different things going on, but what we need to figure out is how to have all of those things flow together in harmony in a way that's pleasing to us, in a way
Mm.
where it makes it our song, right? Not somebody else's. So that's one of the first things that I help them look at is, we don't have to balance it all and make it all perfect and try to, have all this pressure and expectation on ourselves. So I try to help them lift some of that and really look at what are the parts and pieces that you have,
Mm.
and not compare yourself to other people. Because as women, a lot of times we think everybody else has it all together except for us.
Right.
Not
Right.
true, right?
Not at
Maybe
all.
on Instagram, like face value, sure. Okay. Like
Mhm.
they're going to show you the highlight reel, or they're going to show you like, oh, I'm doing this and I'm doing that, but you don't see
The
what's
3 seconds you got the kids to be still for like 5 seconds.
right. And it took you like 100 takes to get that one perfect little video. And then that's the one you choose. Yeah. So, so we kind of look at that comparison piece and try to shift back to what is your life and what's going on
Right.
for you. You know, what are your strengths and what are some of the things that you can lean into, you know, some tools and resources. But the big part of it is what I touched on a little bit in that introduction there, which was that I focus on when you do this and take care of you, you're still going to be able to take care of everyone else. That you're going to be able to do that better. Because at first, they're still so focused, right? Until we do some of that inner work and start to get more connected to themselves and figuring out that it's okay to take care of themselves. It's okay to like what they like and want to do what they want to do and
Right.
all of these things. At first, they're so others focused. They're focused on the outside versus the inside. So I go at the angle of, okay, if we do a little bit of this, we just take a little bit of time for you, then guess what? You're going to be able to continue to show up for those other people in your life, and you're going to be able to do it better.
Mm-hmm.
And so we kind of go a little through the side door in a way
Yeah.
of, you know, I'm not going to convince someone in one session that they are just going to make a complete 180 and be
Yeah.
like, it's all about me. Right.
Right.
And
Right.
never feel bad about that. So we look at it as, okay, if you keep going on the path you're going on, you're not going to be able to take care of
No,
those other
you
responsibilities.
will not end well. It just
Yeah,
won't.
that it's just, you know, you're gonna keep going downhill, and your body literally, if you do not listen to it, will take you out completely,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll crash. You'll be in the hospital. You'll be unable to function. You're not going to be able to take care of anyone else. So we
Yeah.
go
And then
from
what? Like, what if that happens? Who's gonna do it then? Like,
exactly. And so better to take a little bit of time for yourself to take care of yourself now than to have an emergency and then there's nobody, right?
right.
Like you're not there and there's nothing in place. So I start off with that conversation, and then we start very, very basic and try to weave in little tiny bits of that self-care of
Mm-hmm.
how can you do this without, you know, I have a client who always says, without upending the apple cart, without tipping it over and the apple's going over,
Right.
right? How can
Right.
we just do a little bit? And literally basics. Like we start working on things like sleep,
What's
hydration,
that?
eating
Like,
food, moving a little bit, whatever that
mhm.
looks like for you. If you have a lot of pain, so, what kind of stretches, like what can we figure out for you that are just little tiny things that you can incorporate in that don't take a lot of time, but
Mhm.
might make a big difference? Because that foundational piece right there of, we're feeding everybody else but ourselves.
Right.
We're running around and, we ignore what's going on, or we don't get enough sleep. And then, we're not able to heal and restore at night. We're not able to do these things. Like, what can we do? And believe me, I get it. Sometimes that's out of our control because there's other people and pets and things like waking
True.
us up all the time.
Mhm.
And so what can we do? Can we take 1 minute? And so I'll teach a 1 minute check-in to breathe and just tune in. What do I need right now? How can I give that to myself? And
Mhm.
then we start expanding. So it doesn't mean you have to take the, days or weeks or
Yeah.
months off. It doesn't mean you have to take the whole day. And it's not about just like bubble baths and getting your nails done. Those are great, fine, like wonderful. Those are the like it's like icing on that cupcake. It is not the cupcake, right? It is not the thing. It's like sprinkles or something extra. It really is
Exactly.
more
Those
just like
applesauce.
basic level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I think the one of the I guess most basic analogies I think about when it comes to convincing someone to care for themselves It's like if you're in an airplane and the plane's going down,
Yes.
whose oxygen mask do you put on first? Like,
Mhm.
if you can't breathe, you can't do anything. So
100%.
you have to start with you. And again, like you said, it is the literal opposite of what is taught and
Yes.
modeled. So kind of for me, like it was like that, when I first started to actually realize that, oh, I need to look inward, you know, and the question was posed to me, what do you like? And I
Ooh,
had no answer.
that's a hard
Like
one.
I had, and
Mhm.
and the fact that I had no answer, the person
Was
who
a
has
problem.
all the
Yeah.
answers,
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute.
It
Like,
makes you think. I had a very similar thing happen where um, I was like, okay, and I do this for a living. Like, what's going on? And that's when I knew I had to make some shifts because
right.
somebody asked me, what brings you joy? And I was like,
Mhm.
I actually did know the answer. I wasn't doing any of them.
Mm,
I wasn't doing any of it. I was like, oh, yeah,
right.
maybe I should reconnect to that. And I had to go really far back, right? I had to go to like high school, middle school. Like, what did I do when I was a kid that was
Right.
really fun? Because I was so busy adulting for so long and taking care of everyone else that
Right.
I forgot that I could actually do
Have
something.
fun. Just play a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
But
and
that's
you
the
do.
hardest thing, isn't it? When somebody asks you that, I have one client I'm thinking of in particular, and I know this has happened so many different times in sessions where it was just so hard to even literally just say that, not even yet to identify this is what I like, this is what I want. It was literally even saying the words, it's okay to like what I like. It's okay
Mhm.
to want to do something and not immediately be thinking about all the judgment,
Right.
all the
The other people, the
have to, yeah, all of those things. It's so hard because, like you said, we get told we're like too much or we need to do everything for everybody else. And like you said, we have that modeled for us of, moms or grandmas and people who were selfless at giving things to everyone else. And that we never saw them do something for themselves, take
yeah,
anything for themselves and feel their own energy and have their own lives. But how amazing is it if you can learn how to do this? This is such a passion for me of like, if we figure this out, if we're like, guess what? I can take care of myself first.
hmm
I get to like what I like. I can show other people that that's okay. Then that stops with us.
yeah,
That stops with our generation then in our family. And then we're showing everyone around us it's okay to take care of yourself. It's important to advocate for yourself and to take care of your well being. And then you can show up. And that's the thing with that analogy with the face mask, right? With the oxygen mask, is that people think about that, but that's only in an emergency,
right,
right?
right,
And so
right, right.
it's getting them to understand, no, this is like an everyday concept of you eat too when your kids are eating. Like,
Yeah.
feed
And not
yourself.
the scraps, like not with like the edge of the peanut butter, like make an
Yeah,
actual sandwich
exactly.
for
Not
you.
their crust they won't eat. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, and people
That's
like, oh, I ate what they had left over. Like that's not a meal, baby. Like
no,
you need all of it.
yeah. And so then you're teaching them, right? That, well, in order to be a mom, what does that mean? That means that you take care of everyone else. And yeah, like that's wonderful. But then you show them that, oh, if that's what I do, then I don't take care of myself anymore.
Right.
And then that cycle just continues. And especially if you're dealing with, like so many of us have and are, if you're dealing with any kind of health issues, first of all, over 85%, so the CDC says that 85% of physical health conditions have a psychological component.
Yep.
That's a lot. And
Yes.
I doubt it's even that low. Like, it seems really high. It's most of things because, we can cause that a lot of times. We're disconnected from a really young age from our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
So if we keep ignoring a symptom, what happens? It gets bigger, it gets worse, more happens, right? And so one of the things that I use as an example is how, because people are looking at, well, how does that happen that we're not paying attention to what's going on with us? Well, it starts even earlier because you said, when we're taking care of other people, we're attending and paying so close of attention to their needs.
Mm-hmm.
And we're noticing every little thing that's going on with them, but we're not noticing it with us. But it actually starts from when you go to school, if not earlier. What happens is we go to school and we're on somebody else's timetable.
Yeah.
And we're told, okay, well, you can't get up and go to the bathroom if you need to, or get a drink of water or eat food until the bell rings and somebody tells you it's time to go, or you ask permission and you wait until they think it's a good time for you to be able to go. And then that keeps going when we're in jobs. And so that teaches us to override, teaches us to ignore. When your body says, I need something, we're like, not right now, I'm busy, right? I'm busy, can't deal with that right now. Like, let me get this one more thing done. And then we're running to the bathroom because it's an emergency.
Right.
Or we're starving and we just kind of work through it until we ignore it and it goes away because we ignored it for so long. Your stomach rumbles and you're like, okay, whatever, I'm busy right now. I can't do that. Or we just straight up don't drink water. All of those types of things, we just ignore it. We don't pay attention. And so then when there's something wrong, when there's, a headache, or we keep getting sick, or, we start having some digestive issues or some pain and, some things are happening and we're like, oh, that's nothing. And we explain it away. Oh, the kids are back in school. We always get sick this time of year. Right. Or, oh, I just didn't eat earlier. Like, I'll do it at some point. Right. And you start getting a headache, or you're like, oh, I just, can't eat this. It bothers me, or whatever it is. And so we just explain it away. We ignore it. We don't pay attention to it. We don't take care of it. And then it keeps going until there's actually that disease there or something diagnosable. Or if you have, a condition that, was a chronic condition and it is diagnosed, well, or even if it isn't, sometimes people are just worried about what it could be. So they avoid going to the doctor because they have anxiety over what they could be told. And they wait until it's really far along. And then, we wait until it's an actual disease, or we wait until it's an actual thing. And that anxiety about it makes the symptoms worse.
Yeah. It's a cycle, like a really vicious cycle.
It is. Absolutely. Yeah. It's a really important thing to understand, because that's the other thing I feel like we're taught in our society a lot is like, your mind's over here and your body's over here. No, they are completely connected. Our emotions are actually physiological responses in our bodies that we put words to. Because how do you know? Like, how do you know if you're anxious or nervous? Your heart rate changes, your breathing rate changes. You might start to sweat, or you get
shaky, or just
there's things that happen, but then we still don't think how connected things really are. And so it's important to realize when we say things like, oh yeah, I feel like the weight of the world on my shoulders, or this is like rock on my chest, or I feel like I'm so stressed out, I'm going to give myself an ulcer. When we say things like that, it's literal, not figurative. Like, we hold stress in different places. Some people it's their jaw and they start clenching and grinding their teeth, or for some people it's in their neck and then their shoulders, and some people it's their hips. I mean, it's all different, but getting to know yourself and, okay, where do I hold that? That's one of the things I do with hypnotherapy as well, is I help people to get to know their bodies. Like, where do these emotions live? Where does that trauma, that stress, that anxiety, Where does it hang out and where does it accumulate? And then
Mm-hmm.
teach them how to intentionally release that to the point where it becomes more automatic. I have a client who says every time now her jaw starts to tighten up, she releases it. She's like, oh yeah. And then she
Mm-hmm.
releases because we've been doing this work. Or clients who have arthritis who are like, okay, now I'm anticipating, because that's the other thing that happens. We anticipate.
Yes.
So my clients with
That-
chronic conditions, we're like, oh, that's going to hurt, right? If I go out and play with the kids, or I get ready to go up the stairs, or whatever it is, they anticipate the pain. They actually start mentally rehearsing
yeah.
a
And the
negative.
body just responds like, oh, well, okay.
Well,
But she's
oh,
thinking about it.
yeah, I'll give you a pain. Yeah, exactly. You
Right.
want it, I'll give it to you, because whatever we're telling our subconscious, and then it's going to listen, and it's going to look for all the evidence that that's true. And when we hyper focus on something, we get more of it.
And
Whereas
that adds more anxiety, which is another, it's like it's,
another piece of the cycle, and then it just keeps ramping up, and there's all these hormones that are released when we do things like that. So when we are kind of worried in the back of our mind about what something could be, or we're, first of all, when we just override things,
mm-hmm.
it's just going to get louder. It's kind of like getting little taps. I always make a joke that, and believe me, I've been there. So, we're not alone. If this is you, if you're listening,
Absolutely not. No.
not alone. That whenever we get little taps from our body, little signs and symptoms, you're like, oh yeah, whatever. And some of us just have to be hit over the head with frying pans before we pay attention to it.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
I mean, and I think I was probably that person for a while. It's just like, you just, like you say, you just ignore it, and be like, oh well, it'll pass. It's just that, and like, no, it's just you need to listen.
It's just you need to listen, and you're probably doing way too much and not taking care of yourself and not being able to rest and restore your body.
Yes.
And so even if you have something that you're like, okay, this is something that, is part of my life, it doesn't have to be your whole identity.
Nope. Yeah.
And not at all. And it is also something where you can do something about relieving some of that.
Right.
If you can do that work to be able to learn the tools and resources to reduce that stress and that anxiety, to be able to take care of yourself at those really basic levels, to give yourself the best chance of alleviating some of those symptoms, at least not exacerbating it. When we tell ourselves, I am anxious, or I am, someone who has something, but a lot of times we don't say, oh, I'm someone who's living with this condition.
Right.
We say something that's more like, this is who I am, and it's not going to change. That's what we say.
Yeah, like you claim it, like my anxiety is XYZ. So I mean, and I had to learn that as well. Like it's like, even like on in like a spiritual level, it's like you may be dealing with this, but you don't have to make it yours.
Yes, exactly.
It's like it's that.
Yeah, whenever you say I am, you're telling your subconscious, you're telling your mind, which, by the way, runs 90% of everything, including all of your internal mechanisms, right? So everything that works without you having to think about it. You don't think about your blood running through your veins and your heart pumping and breathing and all of those things. We rarely have to think about any of that, and you're not even noticing it. But it's in charge of that. It's also in charge of our habits and our behaviors on the outside as well as on the inside, and those hormones that get released. So when we're focusing on the negative and we're feeling fearful or anxious and stressed, then there's all of these. I mentioned earlier when I was talking about hypnobirthing, we talk about this a lot. There's something called fear, tension, pain syndrome. So when we have fear or anxiety or stress, it causes tension in our bodies and increases pain. So we actually have hormones. So you have, cortisol is the stress hormone we've all heard of. And then there's all these others as well. There's a whole group, things like adrenaline are in this category. It's called catecholamines. It's kind of a big name for these things that get released that put us into hypervigilant states, like fight or flight type of states in our nervous systems. And those are going to shut down all of your internal systems, right? Because now we're in stressed out, hypervigilant, fight or flight mode. So your digestion's not working right. All of those processes that aren't about like really being on guard and being able to defend yourself or get the heck out of here if there's a lion, tiger, or bear coming at you, right? All of those things,
everything shuts down.
right? Those things that we don't have anymore typically. Now I live in the woods, so maybe sometimes, but generally speaking, it's perceived threats. It's more in our minds. It's in our imagination. Your subconscious doesn't know the difference. So when we're telling our subconscious, like, that there's something wrong. There's something wrong. This isn't safe. Like, I'm not okay. And you're saying like, I'm anxious. I'm stressed. I'm, like going to be this way. And this is just how it is. You never release any of that. You just hold it in and it gets stuck in your body and it makes all of those things, that tension and the pain, it heightens it. Versus if we can learn how to relax, which is basically what I do. Honestly, I tell people as a hypnotherapist, I teach people how to relax. And I teach them how to regulate their minds, their emotions, their bodies, and their nervous systems, and be able to relax and get more into that homeostasis where they can actually have all of the things working properly, as well as we can get them as optimally as possible so that you can lessen those feelings, emotionally and physically, so that you can feel more comfortable. You can feel more calm. You have the tools that you can lean into to do that. You know how to relax and you know how to take care of yourself, because if you learn those things, it takes a whole lot less time, energy, and money to take care of yourself on those basic levels than it does taking away from your family, your business, your everything, to be able to go to the doctor all the time and have to spend money on umpteen tests and all of these things for them to give you a pill and say, well, there's nothing else we can do for you. You're just going to have to live with it. Because that has happened to me.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of us, who have chronic illness, we definitely can resonate with that. And, it also kind of goes into like, even with like insurance, it's like, it's this having a self-care practice and starting to take care of you. It's like you're a form of insurance, because if you don't, when you have a chronic illness, if you don't get it treated, it's going to get worse. And the treatment to fix the worst thing is going to cost more.
And it's going to cause more side effects and things.
Side effects.
Oh, exactly. That's a whole topic.
About side effects. Yeah. And that's the thing they don't tell you. It's like, take the pill. It's going to fix this, but you're going to get like rashes or whatever.
Then you have to take more pills for the side effects.
Get rid of the rash.
It's a whole vicious thing. And so, the medical community is here to keep us alive and what is wonderful, and it has wonderful uses, absolutely.
Right.
And there's so much more that people don't realize that they can do for themselves, right?
Once I started to like my holistic walk, pretty much it got to a point where I was like on 26 pills a day, and I'm like, I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. And once I started to meditate, relax, look inside myself, and actually take care of myself, not just say it or, like the acceptable level of taking care of myself, it has literally helped so much. Yeah, I still got a lot of issues, but who doesn't?
But the thing is that they're not, like you said, the way you're talking about it, it's not who you are. It might be part of what you're experiencing right now. And that's part of it. It's learning, like, this is how I'm feeling in this moment. This is what I'm experiencing in my body. What can I do to shift that?
Right.
Like, what can I do? It's focusing on what you can versus what you can't. And it's just that mindset shift. And so hypnotherapy is really about taking those therapeutic tools and utilizing them under hypnosis. Well, what is that? It's basically, like you're saying, if people understand meditation, relaxation, like I mentioned earlier,
Mm-hmm.
it's intentionally inducing that relaxed state. So it's an intentional relaxation
Mm-hmm.
for a purpose. So it's for something specific. So, with meditation, I do a lot of, because I work with people individually, but I also have a group program where I have guided recordings
Mm-hmm.
that people can listen to anytime. And so I talk about it being like guided meditations, just deeper work.
Right.
So targeted specific work. So, we're going into that more relaxed state where we're all designed to have these different brainwave states where we can slow
Mm-hmm.
down and speed up. That's what happens when you go to sleep, right? Or you relax on the couch and you want Netflix or something.
Right.
Yeah, you start to relax a little bit and things start to slow down. And so when right now, we're in what's called a beta state. So that means you're awake and engaging and, doing your thing and having conversations and just going about your life. But often we go into alpha or theta, and those are in between. So beta, alpha, theta, and then delta is your deep sleep. So there's kind
Mm-hmm.
of two states in between. It's just a little bit slower. And meditation, we start going into alpha, right? So hypnosis, same thing, alpha, but sometimes even deeper into that theta state. And all that
Mm-hmm.
means is we're accessing our subconscious. We're able to calm down, imagination,
Right.
creativity, healing. All of those things happen in those states. That's why we have to sleep. In order to heal, we need to slow down so that our bodies can be focused on the healing and doing those things. But we can do that in our minds as well. And so we can calm that down and just learn how to go into that state where we can just breathe. We can
Mm-hmm.
relax our bodies. So I teach how different breathing techniques for anxiety and relaxation, also how to relax our bodies. If you've ever gone to physical therapy, it's really funny because I know this has happened to me, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. They'll be like, relax your neck. And you're like, how do you relax just your neck? Like,
Right.
or
Right.
like your elbow, relax your elbow. And I'm like, okay. But that's kind of what I teach people how to do.
Yeah.
They tell you to do it, but they don't ever tell you how to do it. They
Ow. Mm-hmm.
but really, it's not relaxed. I'm like, I'm trying, right? Uh, so I teach people how to do that kind of progressive body relaxation for things like sleep and for pain. I show them how to, like I mentioned earlier, pinpoint where are they holding those types of things. And
Mm-hmm.
then I teach them some techniques in their mind to be able to then have their body follow in
Mm-hmm.
releasing that tension, that tightness, that pain, that stress in their bodies so that they can have some peace and calm and comfort, even just for a little while. They can bring that down
Right.
a notch. And so, those types of things, like you were saying with meditation, that's really helped you. It's because we can access a lot more. We can get more clarity. We can understand, have more awareness about what's going on inside. Like you had said, Latoya, tuning in versus just paying attention to everything going on in the outside. Tuning in is so beneficial. And so when you can learn how to do that and get that support you deserve, because we do not have to do everything by ourselves. Even
Right.
if it's just to learn how to do that and then you can practice it on your own, it really does make such a huge difference. And that was, when I had that aha moment, just like you, where it was like, I'm not doing anything that brings me joy, or I'm not doing anything that I like. I'm doing all the have tos all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Even just that spark of awareness means that then you then have the ability to change because you now are
Mm.
aware.
So, what are some of the most common misconceptions that you run into when either trying to introduce hypnosis or people hear that you're a hypnotherapist? It's like,
Yeah.
what are like the most common falsehoods that you run into?
That's such a good question. So it's very interesting because most people don't really understand what it is. They just see stuff on television, right?
Right.
And so it's very interesting because there's like this whole weird mix of things that you'll see on TV. There's been a couple of things that I've seen that were pretty accurate. And I was like, okay, great. Because maybe it's a psychiatrist doing hypnotherapy or, something like that. And then it's like, okay, that's pretty good. But then there's a lot of stuff that seems like strange, or they've only seen like a stage show or at the fair. They're like, I don't understand what that is. Like, it seems weird. And so most of the misconceptions are around things like that they'll be out of control, which is actually the opposite. That's what's really interesting, is you are completely in control. Just relax. So just like if you were, chilling, watching Netflix on the TV and getting really into that movie and feeling all those emotions, all those things, if the fire alarm goes off, you can jump up and run. It's all good. Like, you can come right back up, just like you successfully go to sleep and wake up every day. You go in and out of those brainwave states. You can come right out of it anytime. I mean, how many of us have been like so out, and then we hear like the dog needs to go out, or the cat's throwing up on the carpet, and you're like, oh, and you're up. Right?
It's like, what's going on now?
Yeah. If you need to attend to something, you're on it. You hear the baby wake up and you're like, oh, like total radar for that. So those types of things are the same. So you can tune the things out on the outside if you want to, but you also are aware of them and you can hear everything. And if you wanted to, or if you needed to attend to something, you totally could. So a lot of people think they're going to be, not aware of what's going on. You are, and you can definitely remember the things that happen. I have conversations. So I'm not just telling people as a hypnotherapist, especially my approach. I have a more client-centered approach where I'm not just like reading a script. Like, a lot of times you hear a guided meditation and somebody will be like, well, imagine this field with this bridge and this stream. And, and I don't tell people. I will maybe leave it more open-ended, and we'll have a conversation, and I'll say, go to your, peaceful space, find a peaceful space that you can imagine in your mind, and, maybe somewhere you've been, and maybe somewhere that you just create out of your imagination, wherever you want to be. And you might be on a beach, and somebody else might be in the woods, and somebody else might be in their grandparents' porch swing from when they were a kid. It's all different. And so it's customized. So I'm not telling you what to think, how to feel, or how to act. The answers are coming from inside yourself. So no one else is, I'm not telling you what to do. The other thing is that people will think that it's going to feel weird. And again, it doesn't feel different. Sometimes, when you are closing your eyes and you're relaxing for long enough, and you're tuning all the things out and you're tuning in, like, it will definitely feel like things maybe fade away. I've had clients tell me, they're like, if I'm 6 feet from them, I work mostly virtually nowadays. So people understand I'm on the other side of the Zoom, but if I was in person with somebody and I'm, just in the next chair or something, they're like, oh, it feels like you're 30 feet away instead of, 6 feet away, or, something like that. Kind of, might feel a little bit like you're at a distance. But other than that, it doesn't feel strange. Like I said, nobody can tell you what to do if someone were to try. So I don't do that. But if someone were to try, and there's something that's against your values, your morals, your ethics, who you are, your subconscious mind will just reject it.
Yeah, you'd be like, nope. It's like, get up. What's going on?
Absolutely. And you are not going to tell me your passwords any more than you would if you would do it right now.
Right. I think probably some of that is because we're always so busy and always in motion. It feels weird because we're not in motion.
Because you're actually slowing down and
so it's gonna feel weird. It's like, why am I not moving? Like, what?
Yeah. And it's really an amazing process, like I said, for that clarity, for that awareness. Because of that, because we are always moving. So those are usually the biggest things. They'll think it might go against, something against their beliefs. And that is absolutely not the case. Like I said, nobody's in control of your mind except for you. And if you don't want to tell me something, you don't have to. I've had that experience personally in sessions before, because I did get a little bit of support when I figured that out. I was super burnt out and I wasn't physically healing the way that I thought I should and that my doctors thought I could. They said, well, this is like, we've been doing this for a while and we've hit a plateau. There's not much more we can do for you. And so I decided to look into that for me, right? Of what was that? I knew that there was some kind of block because of what I do. I was like, okay, there's something going on that's affecting my recovery, and I need to figure out what that is. And so I remember going into a session with one of my colleagues, and there was something I didn't want to share. And guess what? I didn't have to share it. And that's okay. I could keep it to myself. I had the awareness for myself, and that was enough. And there were other things that I shared, and that was fine. But I want people to understand that it's about getting your own answers from within. It's not about me telling you. And it's also not something where you're going to spill all your deep, dark secrets if you don't want to.
Right. So, like, if we're talking about, hypnosis for people who are dealing with some sort of chronic pain or an actual like physical ailment, injury, things like that. With it actually being there, like it's not like an emotional thing.
It's there, yeah.
What kind of or what is the benefit for someone who wants to do that holistic route and wants to try and get that higher benefit, with their actual diagnosis? How does that work in that process?
Great question. So 2 levels, really. First of all, we can help you reduce the stress and anxiety and trauma around the diagnosis and the health condition itself, right? So that in and of itself is really helpful. I work with a lot of people, like I don't mind sharing. I do a lot of high-risk screenings because of different health stuff in my life. And I was in an MRI machine yesterday and everything was good, by the way. So that's a wonderful thing.
Yes, great. Good.
I use my tools in the MRI machine and I teach people how to, be able to go through those kinds of tests and procedures.
That is dramatic. I don't like it. It's like in 2024, we should have something quieter and better than MRI machine.
That was loud as can be. Yeah, they put these headphones, and I'm like, they don't do anything. I don't even know why they put them on. Yeah, I'm like, it's really loud. But so being able to help with those types of things, the health anxieties, and because there's a lot of feelings around our diagnoses and our conditions and stress about what is this test going to say and what is this going to be, or having surgeries, or just living with chronic pain in general, right? So that piece, it can be really beneficial for just giving you tools and resources and helping teach you some of those techniques, like I mentioned earlier. That's important. For the actual physical symptoms, our mind does direct our bodies in so many ways. And so again, like we said, those anxieties, those fears, those stressors can exacerbate those conditions because it does help us, or not help us, really. It's kind of the opposite, right? It's working at cross purposes, because when we have those fears and anxieties and stressors, it releases all of those stress and pain hormones, which are not contributing to us feeling better. And so the other piece of that is helping people learn how to breathe, how to relax, how to do these things to regulate their nervous systems. Like I was talking about earlier, we can help ourselves to release the good hormones. So can teach you how, through that relaxation and visualization and affirmations that work. Like that's a whole nother conversation, but there's certain kinds of affirmations that work best with, telling our subconscious what to work on. And so when we can work on those things through hypnotherapy, we can help you to release endorphins, which are your good, feel good hormones, which actually can be up to 200 times as effective as morphine. So you can get some pain relief and teach you
some of that.
Let's get some of that for free and no side effects. That's right. Yes, and proven. And so those are the types of things that we can do to, give you some tools. So, if a client, like I mentioned earlier, a client with arthritis who's anticipating the pain going up the stairs is already feeling the pain, and then it's excruciating getting up the stairs with the knees, right? And so now that particular client has tools to be able to lean into in their mind that can help them shift that, can help them soothe that, and get up the stairs with less discomfort, which is amazing, right? Or being able to, function and do these things. So we can switch and change that negative mental rehearsal. We can learn how to relax and to be able to release, like the client with the jaw. As soon as her jaw starts tightening up, she's like, okay. We can release some of the pressure and expectations. So I've had clients with chronic migraine. We figured out kind of what is the root cause of what's going on. Even a client who'd had chronic migraines since she was a kid. And they were like, well, like, there's nothing else you can do. Here's some medication. Like, we couldn't really figure out what the cause was. And a lot of it was the contribution of all that pressure and expectation that she was putting on herself. And so even just releasing that emotional aspect can help bring less pain and symptoms. But also there's actual chemical processes in your body that can also relieve the pain and the symptoms. So, while, somebody with a chronic condition that may not, be saying like, oh, you're never going to have any of this ever again, it can give you tools to lessen it. It can help it be more comfortable and be something that is going to give you a better quality of life, and not identifying with, this is who I am, this is how it is, this is how it's always going to be, and just resigning yourself to a life of pain. We can really focus on more of those what we can do's that you were talking about earlier versus what we can't. Well, I'm feeling this today. What can I do to help myself feel a little bit better?
Right. So got about two more questions, but I really want to touch on, like, okay, so we just spoke about chronic pain. How I want to word this. Is there a difference between, let's say, chronic pain from illness and traumas, like, which are technically emotions, but they're emotions from an actual physical something that did happen that you probably pushed down, years ago. So how can hypnosis help improve that and help us heal from like trauma situations?
Such a good question. Big topic, but I can boil it down for us. Yeah, because that is a huge topic. So yeah, I primarily have worked with people, like I mentioned earlier, like traumas, anxieties, health conditions often that were effects of that, over the years. And so it's really, really key to understand exactly what you were talking about, that yes, it's emotional and how we experience something, and it's also physical, that it's also stored often in our bodies. When an animal, let's say a deer, because I live in the woods, like I said. So
I'm in the South, so I know all about deers.
Yeah. Oh, you got it too. Yeah. You know, everywhere. We have deer everywhere. Yeah. I don't think it matters where you live nowadays. There's deer. Right. So, if a deer almost gets hit by a car, let's say, okay, when that happens to an animal, what they do is within a couple hours, that's released. Like after they come down from that adrenaline rush and that fight or flight, they literally shake. So they will shake it off. They'll get it out of their system and they reset and then they move on. Humans way overthink all the things. And often we're like, I don't want to deal with this right now. And we stuff it and we don't release it. Right. And so, so helping to figure out, first of all, to process in a very safe way, because when you're relaxed, and we're able to take you to that safe and a peaceful space within ourselves, we can be more on the outside, like more of an observer of something, and not have to re-traumatize, re-experience it, which is really important. So that's one of the reasons why I initially chose hypnotherapy so many years ago, 23 years ago when I was in grad school and working with people with trauma, I really wanted to help them faster, first of all, to get results faster, because hypnotherapy can help you get results a lot quicker than many other therapies, but also to be able to get to that root cause of what's going on in a safer, more gentle way,
Right.
no non-threatening type of a way. And so it can help us to figure out what that initially was, process that, and release some of that that's been stored in our subconscious and in our bodies, so then we can move forward. And it is something that we can acknowledge, that we can address, and we can start to release some of the pressure from the pressure cooker on. So that's a big piece. But it is a chicken and an egg type of a situation, because you were asking
what comes first.
trauma. It really is, because a lot of times, like you said, because when we stuff those things down and we override and all the things that we were talking about earlier, then that dis-ease or, pain or different things can be formed out of that, because again, it has a psychological component there, or it might exacerbate or make something worse and turn it into a diagnosable thing. However, it also can contribute. So maybe you already had some of that, and then there's some trauma and there's stress and there's, that fear and tension and pain and everything that's got compounded in your body on top of what was already going on.
Right.
And so, it's always hard to say which came first. But either way, that's the great thing about hypnotherapy, is it's complementary to everything you're doing for your health physically and your well-being. So that's really important to know, is that I truly believe in having a care team, and I'm just part of that. So I'm that piece where, I love working with doctors who are like, yeah, the pill is not the thing. It's not the end all be all. It's not the only thing. Got to do that work too. And that those things working together are what can really help people. It can really help them move that needle. And sometimes they're at that point where they don't have that yet. They're in the ambiguous area where it's like, well, we can't really figure out what's going on with you. Nothing's actually showing up on the scans. You don't have anything diagnosable yet, but you don't feel right, or things are starting to go that direction. And so it can just help benefit and be that, supplement and that complementary approach to what can you do up here that's going to affect the rest of you. And with trauma, there's different things that people experience differently. And it could be, a past childhood trauma, that you are still holding on to, or it could be an acute trauma of something like a car accident that you just experienced, right? So there can be a lot of different things, but they can affect us to where in the future, whenever our subconscious feels like, oh, that feels really close to that, it gets activated again, and our nervous system gets activated again, right? We get triggered or activated. And so knowing how to get yourself back into, so my client in psychology, they call it a window of capacity. I always go like this with my clients. So my clients call it window of okayness. And it's getting back to that window of okayness of, I've got this, I can handle this, it'll be okay. And that's really what I like to focus on, helping people to figure out for themselves. Because if you're up out of the window, that's anxiety, fear, anger, stress. Down is when you're feeling really withdrawn, depressed, isolated, like you don't want to do anything. That's more the freeze side of like, I just want to withdraw and just, not make the effort. And sometimes with our physical health, we can be activated way up here, or we can be down here. And it's like, how do you get yourself back into that space? And therapy is an amazing tool to do that, to help us to figure out those tools that we can do that can help ourselves. And that's one of the things I love. I love helping people feel empowered. Like, oh my gosh, there is something I could do. I thought that it was totally out of my control and that there was nothing that I could do. And I just had to do, basically go through the motions and just take it and think like, well, I just have to live with this for the rest of my life.
Right.
But you don't have to be miserable all of the time. You
And
really can always do something to alleviate that. No matter how you're feeling physically, there's stuff we can do up here.
absolutely. I think what I love is like it seems it is the overrunning theme
Mm-hmm.
through this whole conversation is changing your perspective
Mm-hmm.
and focusing more on what you can do,
That's right.
regardless of how it looks, what they said, how even sometimes even how you feel, because you're
Mm-hmm.
not going to always feel positive and like we can all the time. That's just not how we were made. But if you take that little bit of effort, just a little bit, to think, okay, this sucks, granted, but
Mm-hmm.
how can we less suck in it? Like, how can we not make it suck so bad?
How
And
can we not make it suck worse? Yeah, exactly.
right, because
Let's like just try not to compound it, and it is important to acknowledge, right? I always acknowledge this is how I'm feeling in this moment. Again,
mhm,
this moment, it's not
it will
unchanging.
pass.
This moment, this is how I'm feeling, and this is what I'm experiencing in my body, and acknowledge that, voice that, and
Mhm.
then what can I do? What can I give myself? What tool can what can I do in order to shift that? How can I make myself feel better? What can I move? Can I stretch? Can I drink some water? Can I call a friend? Can I, if you need to take something, like,
Yeah.
okay, like heat, ice, I mean, whatever it is, but you're focused on what can I do
Mhm.
versus what can't I? And that is such an important shift.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. That was an important message for today.
Yeah. And even with when you're thinking about the what can you do, that may also involve not doing something.
That's true.
If you
Yes, boundaries at the same
had
time.
another, like say you going to the park or dinner with friends or drinks with friends, and but you've already had a really long day and you're already at that point, cancel. I mean, it's like it's
Instead of
like
pushing yourself and saying, I'm just going to push through, I'm going to do it
right.
anyway. Sometimes it's okay. It's okay to just say, you know what, guys, I know we had these plans, but I'm feeling like I really just need to take care of myself and stay in tonight. I'm not feeling up to it. It's okay to say that.
Yeah. No is okay. It's not. No one's gonna bleed when you say no.
Exactly.
you know.
Exactly. It's so true. And so boundaries is another whole conversation, but that's
That's a
something that
that's a whole nother podcast.
whole nother
Because
podcast.
that. Oh my
Um,
god.
but
Yeah.
I feel like, those types of things, those are learned skills.
Yes.
All of these things that we're talking about today, those are things that we can learn and we can grow in.
Hmm.
And just focusing on the fact that we can do that is huge. That I can say no, I can take care of myself in this moment. And yeah, if what you need is to not do something, that's okay too.
So, what is the one message
Mm-hmm.
you want to leave the people with today? Just whatever you feel is needed, and let us know how they can reach you. If they want to book a session or anything like that, or just learn more about you, tell us how we can do that.
Okay. So the thing that I really want to just get across to everybody and to give you as a message today is, of course, that it's okay to take care of yourself and to be empowered and be your own advocate. Those are such huge lessons that I think are important for all of us, that there are things that you can do, but you don't have to do it alone.
Right.
Right. So that is very, very important, because we talked earlier that, most of us are trying to do everything on our own and have that whole weight of the world on our own shoulders. And you don't have to do it all by yourself. And so get that support that you deserve. You really, truly do deserve that. And it can help you to help yourself so that you then can help
Mhm.
everyone else. And so in order to do that, it means sometimes reaching out for that support and exploring your options. And so, I am one of those options. I'm, somebody who's here to listen, to hear what's going on with you, and to see if I'm a good fit to help
Right.
you or point you in the right direction.
Mhm.
Help you find those resources that you need. And so, in order to reach me and to do that, you can find me at psychedupsuccess.com. I'm also on social media, so all the things in Facebook and Instagram and YouTube at Psyched Up Success as well. So you can find me there. You can book a free 30-minute consultation with me on my website where you can explore those options. We can have that conversation. And you can also see some of the different programs that I offer as well, because like I said, I do offer individual services as well as group, and some different programs for individuals as well as for parents. And so I'd be happy to just point you in the right direction and give you some feedback, but also give you that space
Mhm.
to be able to express what's going on with you. And I think that in and of itself can often be very therapeutic, of just having that space to be like, hey, this is what's going on. Talk to somebody on the outside, because, I often describe what we're going through as kind of like the snow globe of our
Mhm.
lives. When somebody shakes up that snow globe and you're in your own little blizzard and you can't see outside, talking to
Mhm.
somebody from the outside can really just help give you so much clarity.
Mhm.
So I invite anyone who is ready to take that step and get that support to reach out to me and book a call. I'd be happy to help in any way that I can.
That's amazing. I love this. I love this conversation. I could probably do 2 more episodes with you because because there are so many other areas that I'm sure you can assist or at least give clarity on that we didn't even touch on. But like I said, just remember what we were saying. It's important to look at what you can do.
That's right.
All the other stuff will be the other stuff. It will be there. But if you can empower yourself and take back that control that you may have given away, you may have lost due to circumstance, um, you'll be surprised at how much that helps. So thank you so much for giving us your time, giving us your knowledge. And I will have all of your links and everything linked in the description to this episode. And until next time, butterflies, I will see you later.